You're listening to Forward Faster, bite-sized insights for entrepreneurs.
Thanks for tuning in to the Forward Faster podcast. This is Matt Foley. I'm the Managing Director of Startup Incubation here at NextCore, where we're supporting over 70 local startups through our incubator alone. And one of those startups is PlankeApp, a mobile app that makes the hiring experience for boutique fitness faster, easier, and more effective. PlankeApp is led by co-founder Hannah McMullen, who's here with me today. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So to get started, why don't you tell us about PlankeApp?
PlankeApp is an app designed specifically for boutique fitness studios and boutique fitness instructors. The entire purpose is to help those two groups of people connect in a faster and easier way for the purposes of hiring. Boutique fitness is unique as an industry in that there is a lot more turnover than in more traditional jobs and positions. And that turnover happens fast. So boutique fitness studios sometimes need short-term instructors that they're hiring or long-term needs, but it happens really, really fast. And before PlankeApp, there was never a way to do that on demand. And there was never a platform designed specifically for boutique fitness, which has very specific needs in terms of vetting candidates, what matters in terms of experience, skills. It's not like a lot of traditional industries.
And just to clarify, when you say boutique fitness, can you give us some examples?
That is such a great question because boutique fitness can mean different things to different people.
Okay.
When we say boutique fitness, right now PlankeApp focuses on Pilates, but it's not just for Pilates studios. In general, boutique fitness it's not your big gym, right? It's not a YMCA or a Crunch or anything like that. It's not a chain. It could be a franchise if a franchise really focuses on one or two specific types of fitness. So it has more of a niche product offering and a niche customer.
And what made you focus on Pilates first?
That is because I'm a Pilates instructor.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
So tell me about that. How long have you been an instructor for?
Yeah, so I've been an instructor for 7 years. I also own a Pilates studio now here in Rochester. But my experience in the industry is the inspiration for the app. My husband and I were a husband and wife team. We first dreamt up the idea for the app many years ago over brunch because my husband works in software and he can work from anywhere and we love to travel. And I thought, wow, well, I wish my job wasn't holding us back from traveling. I wish there was a way for me to quickly travel to California and see, oh, this studio needs a teacher because their instructor is sick or on maternity leave or whatever the reason being. And I could drop in and be a guest instructor. So that was 2016 or 2017. It wasn't until we moved to New York City in 2018 and I started the process of looking for full-time work teaching Pilates in New York, which is basically the headquarters of Pilates as an industry, where I realized, A, how much opportunity there is in the industry, but B, that the industry was super unique in its hiring needs, and it was trying to function like a more traditional industry. So I was looking at job postings on LinkedIn, Indeed, Craigslist. It's not designed for that. A resume does not matter in the fitness industry. Sure, you can list your certifications, but that's just a small piece of the puzzle. So I spent a lot of time applying, then doing phone interviews, working on cover letters, things that just wasted time for both me and the studios. Then only to find out that I accepted a job at a studio that culturally wasn't the right fit for me. And the fitness industry is so personal. Everything is about the instructors making personal relationships to the clientele. And so those things really need to sync up. So it was a little while of figuring out how, as an instructor, I could better vet studios before I accepted jobs. And that experience is what led us to develop Plank.
Gotcha. You mentioned, I'll go off topic for a second here. You mentioned husband and wife team, and I know you have a small child at home.
Yes.
How do you make that work?
Coffee.
Coffee, okay.
It's a good question. We are really a team when it comes to the business, the home, and parenting. We split things really evenly. And I think we rely on supporting each other in their strengths. So my husband, PJ, he's the tech lead, first of all. But he also is really good at researching and diving into startups in general and learning the ins and outs of startups and tech and apps. And so a few months ago, before we didn't have an official CEO, it was PJ, our third partner, Trisha, and myself kind of all just working together. And after seeing how proactive PJ was and how good he was at seeking out big picture ways to elevate the company, I said, you should be the CEO. You're doing this. You have that vision. And so I think it's just recognizing the things that we're really good at, giving each other opportunity to lean in. And then, when he's busy doing that, maybe I do more dishes at home or I do more daycare pick up and drop off.
So you mentioned PJ's a software developer.
Yes.
So you experience this problem, you come up with a solution.
Yeah.
How did you then build the product?
That was a really fun time to think back on. We were in New York. It was before we had our daughter. I was teaching Pilates full time and he was working in software development. And his experience is more in large scale back-end database. I'm probably saying all of the wrong things, but not mobile apps.
Okay.
But he knew enough to know what we needed. So we went to sites like AngelList to post that we were looking for a part-time app developer. And he knew what type of mobile app language we wanted to use and how to make it work for both iOS and Android. That was a concern at the time. And so he led that hiring initiative. We had a ton of candidates. Many of them were not the right fit for an early stage startup with little to no budget and no experience. But we found a college student who was in their senior year who loved mobile app development and was looking for more experience. So we worked out a monthly contract with him for a very low fee. And we worked with him for about, I want to say 8 months to get the app near completion.
Okay. And what did you give him to direct him in the right way as to what you wanted built?
Great question. I have a friend who works in UX design. So we did a trade with her. I had this idea for the product. I knew exactly what I wanted it to look and feel like, how I wanted it to function, but I have no hands-on design skills. So we traded. Her and I worked together to figure out the UX. PJ helped her. She has a side business. He helped her with some web integration stuff. And then she handed off some design files. We handed those off to our developer. And then we worked very closely because he was very green. He was excellent at coding, but definitely needed a lot of guidance, rightfully so. So during that time, we met with him every Monday to go over the design, then like the coding that he had done, do some quality assurance back and forth. And we just had this ongoing workflow of going back and forth like that.
In hindsight, PJ is obviously technical. If you were trying to do it on your own and you didn't have that technical resource, what do you think that experience would have been like?
I don't know that it would have ever happened.
Okay.
Maybe, hopefully. But it was a huge help. He knew how to figure out exactly what kind of tech we needed, how to vet someone, and then how to guide them so that they could build it.
Okay.
Before we got there, we had thought about, do we go straight to finding some sort of funding so that we can hire more experienced experts to do that? But I don't think we would have found much success there.
So continuing through the journey, you work with the student to get things launched. I love the scrappiness of that story, by the way. You barter for services with the UX specialist. So you're launched, correct? Just for the listeners?
No.
Okay.
Well, so this was back 2019 into 2020.
Okay.
We're living in New York. It's March 2020. I'm 9 months pregnant. And COVID starts to really become a thing. We ended up leaving the city a few weeks before my daughter was born because the hospitals there were dealing with COVID. So we were fortunate that we could go back home to our family in the Catskill area. Ended up staying there for much longer than we anticipated. We didn't go back to New York. In that time, also because of COVID, boutique fitness changed completely. So before COVID, our biggest concern that we had about selling this was that boutique fitness isn't usually an early adopter of tech. So this is saying, hey, something that you've been doing very traditionally for a while can be done with your phone. Let's get you comfortable with that. Well, because of COVID, many studios went to streaming and live virtual classes and on demand and all of that. So the industry spent 2020 to 2021 adopting tech in a more meaningful way. And during that time, we paused PlankeApp because of having a baby, moving, COVID.
So you paused it, and then what happened when you unpaused it? What was the next step after that?
That's when our third partner, Trisha, comes into play. So end of 2021, we had decided to move back to Rochester. We got settled in. I started teaching Pilates a lot more, and we just got to a point where we said, we built this. This was about 95% of the way ready to launch. We had plans for summer 2020. What do we need to do to bring this back to life? It's different. At the time, we were going to launch in New York. So that's a whole different game than launching in Rochester. So I started to do some research to just scope out what have I missed while I was in new motherhood COVID bubble. I found a Facebook group called Traveling Pilates Instructors, and tied to that Facebook group was a website, Traveling Pilates Instructors. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting. This was our original inspiration. So I saw that there was this group and this website with the purpose of connecting studios and instructors who want to travel. So I reached out to the admin of the group, and we had a couple phone calls. On those phone calls, first just talking about our shared interests, vision, all of that, feeling each other out. And then we eventually did a demo for them, showing them, look, we developed this tool to basically do what you're doing in a more mobile way, in a faster way, in a more effective way, because their website and their Facebook group required a lot of manual effort on their end. So then we decided our interests are aligned, our vision is aligned, let's join forces. And the really great thing about that was Trisha, the founder of Traveling Pilates Instructors, she had cultivated a small but very specific user base that was the perfect beta test group for Plank. So we had built the product, but we hadn't tested it. So once we joined with her, we refined the product, dusted off the cobwebs. It had been a year since we had touched it, and then used her Traveling Pilates Instructors group as our beta test group so that it was a safe way to say, hey, you're already using this other product. We're about to transition it, increase the value, increase everything that you can get from what you're already doing. Just start to use it and let us know your thoughts. And that's how we launched.
And what hurdles, if any, have you encountered trying to get people to change their behaviors and use the app? Okay, tell me about it.
Again, the industry itself is not very tech savvy. It's come a long way, so that's great. But we still get a lot of people who they're more comfortable writing things pen and paper or typing things in an email. So what the beta test group with Trisha was doing was typing everything out, their job posting, their requirements, what they were looking for, and so on, and sending it to Trisha. And then Trisha was putting that on a website. Now we're telling people, you can do this on your own. You don't need to send it to us. But they like to have their hands held a little bit, which who doesn't? So it's been a learning curve getting them comfortable with that, getting them comfortable with a mobile app instead of a desktop application or a website, but teaching them the value of you don't need to be tied to anything. You can do this from anywhere at any time. And the Pilates industry, I love it. It's my whole career. But there's a lot of personal political things inside the industry that at this point in time are really dividing it and creating these little subgroups where our goal is to unite it. So we don't care if someone got their training with this school or that school or what style they consider themselves or how much experience they have. We want to help elevate everyone in the industry, but there are some big people and opinions in the industry who don't feel that way. So our app is a little bit breaking down those barriers while some people are trying to build them up.
So we covered the past.
Yeah.
We're at the present. What's the future of PlankeApp?
We are all boutique fitness. We service Pilates, yoga, cycle, bar, strength, HIIT, you name it, boxing. We're helping all boutique fitness studios and instructors connect with one another. We're helping people find jobs, build their careers, whether that's on a local basis. So I'm an instructor in Rochester, New York, and I want to fill my schedule, or I now want to travel and I can use PlankeApp to say, oh, I'm going to Mexico next month. Here's a studio on the beach that I can teach a class while I'm there. And I also see some consumer versions of the app by 5 years from now, where we're helping instructors and their clients connect better too.
So we like to leave our listeners with a call to action. Where can people go to learn more and sign up for PlankeApp?
So if you teach Pilates or any boutique fitness, you can download our app both in the Apple Store, or if you have an Android, in the Play Store. It is just by searching PlankeApp. That is PLANKE. So it's Plank with an E at the end. And then to learn more about us, you can visit us on our website, which is just plankeapp.com. And if you're a studio, that's where you can find out information about signing up as well.
Great. Thanks again for joining us, Hannah. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. If you aren't already subscribed to the Forward Faster podcast, definitely subscribe to get notified of future episodes. You can find us on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, and on our website at nextcore.org. And if you're a startup in the Rochester region, I invite you to check out the NextCore Incubator and many accelerator programs we have here at NextCore. Thanks again, Hannah, and best of luck with PlankeApp.
Thank you.